If you're searching for the best webcam, you've come to the right place, because in this video, I'm going to compare 5 of today's most popular webcams against each other, and I'm also going to compare them against an iPhone and the video camera that I use here on my YouTube channel, so you can see the differences and make an informed decision for your business. Hey, I'm Melissa, and welcome back to Wit and Wire, where we help everyday experts become profitable course creators. For today's comparison, all of the webcams are compatible with both Macs and PCs. As a note, you might need an adapter to connect the camera to your computer. They also all have a baseline resolution of 1080p, and some go up to 4K, although that won't be necessary for all online business owners. Also, although these webcams come with a built-in microphone, I won't be testing those in our side-by-side comparison, and that's because I believe most online business owners and course creators will be better served with an external microphone like a USB mic. So I'm going to include links to my recommendations in the description, or you can download our free video toolkit for online course creators at witandwire.com/video toolkit. And that includes bookmarks to all of our favorite webcams, microphones, and lighting. So again, check that out in the description. With that in mind, I'm excited to demo each of these webcams one by one so you can see the image quality for yourself and ultimately decide which one is right for you. Let's start with the Logitech C920s. This is one of the most popular webcams of the last few years. And it's $70 as of the time of this recording, making it the only option under $100 on our list. Now let's check out the key specs for this camera so that you know what to look for. The C920s offers 1080p resolution at 30 frames per second. Without getting too technical, 1080p is the recommendation for most creators and online business owners. The next level up would be 4K. And today we have one camera that does shoot in 4K. And although that might be a helpful upgrade for YouTubers and anybody shooting more talking head style videos, if you're doing courses like this where your camera is in what's called a PIP or a picture in picture, you might not need that 4K resolution. Same thing if you're doing a lot of streaming or using Zoom. The average 4K camera over a live stream is not necessarily going to be as crisp as it would be if you were offline. So it's up to you to decide which resolution is right for your business. You can also see that we have a 78-degree field of view. So that refers to how wide the lens is and how much of what you can see to either side. There are some webcams that offer the option to change your field of view, but this just has one set field of view, which is pretty common for a webcam. Scrolling down, we can also see one more important feature, which is the focus type. This camera has what's called autofocus. That means that the webcam will always try to focus. And you see how when my hand gets closer, it kind of adjusts the color. And then when my hand moves away, it gets a bit lighter. That is autofocus at work. And sometimes when you move around, autofocus can tend to look a bit blurred. So other cameras with fixed focus might appear to look a little more consistent with a little bit less of that blur. But we'll be able to compare that coming up with the other cameras. This camera also does allegedly have a digital zoom of 1.2, but I would say that it does not have a zoom. That's not going to make a huge difference. And I do like that it comes with a privacy shutter. If you're interested in mounting this webcam on a tripod, it does have a universal mounting clip, so you can remove the base and then put it on a different tripod to suit your setup. Also, although I had used this webcam for years, it was the first webcam I purchased at Wit and Wire, I did not know that Logitech had software that I could use to potentially increase my image quality. So as part of our webcam review, I'm also going to pull up the software that goes with each webcam so we can see how that affects the overall image. Here's the software that I downloaded from Logitech's website called Logitune. At the top, I can see my webcam. And here I can see the preview and that very small amount of zoom we talked about. I don't think I would recommend this just because this is not a high resolution 4K camera, so it might affect your image quality. But again, it's so slight, it might not make a huge difference. Then under image adjustments, you can play with any of these dials to adjust the image to maximize the way that your camera looks in your space. So for example, if you turned off auto white balance, you could adjust this to match the lighting in your room or turn this back on. You can also adjust brightness, contrast, saturation, or sharpness, but I'm going to go ahead and reset these to default. I don't personally recommend the filters, but there are additional options here. And after you're finished with your adjustments, you could safely close out of this software. Next is the Razer Kiyo Pro for $120. This webcam kept coming up when I was doing research for the best options for this video, and right out of the box, I was initially impressed. But I will say after testing, there is one feature that likely would prevent me from recommending this webcam. So let's talk about the specs and then I'll show you what I mean. First, the Razer Kiyo Pro has 1080p resolution at 60 frames per second. And that's our standard recommendation for most online business owners and course creators, unless you know that you need that 4K resolution for more in-depth video needs. Also, you can see that there are 3 different fields of view. So you can adjust how wide that diagonal is behind you, which could control how much you can see behind you in the shot. This camera has an autofocus, and I will say this is where I started running into issues. So let me switch back over to the camera to show you what I mean. This camera has some serious autofocus issues, as you could just see. When I tested this during a Zoom call, it kept going kind of in and out during the shot, and especially when I moved my arms, I felt like it had a hard time staying literally focused. So this wouldn't be a huge issue if I were on a PC, but I soon learned that there is no Mac software for this camera. So that is potentially a deal breaker feature for me, but if you have a PC, it could still work. By the way, if you're comfortable using software like OBS or some other streaming platforms, you can adjust the focus there. But because I use a webcam for more than just video creation, I also use it on Zoom calls, not having that software available, again, for me, just kind of makes that a deal breaker for this camera. If you're a PC user, you might go to Razer's website and check out the Synapse 3. That's the software that goes with this webcam. But since I am a Mac user, I couldn't test that out. Next, we have the Logitech Brio 505 for $130. This is Wirecutter's #1 recommended webcam, and I love Wirecutter, so I knew I had to include this camera in the roundup. Immediately, you might notice that the field of view is much wider. We can now see my full fake plant from IKEA and my full bookshelf, but we'll take a closer look when we open up the software. On Logitech's website, you can see that this camera includes multiple resolutions, and the highest is 1080p at 30 frames per second, which should work well for many online business owners and course creators. Compared to the earlier Logitech camera, this one offers more than one field of view. So that's why it looks so much wider in that initial shot. There's also a digital zoom, although I don't really know if I would recommend that because since we're not recording in 4K, it might just diminish the quality a little bit since we're zooming in. But then to cover the rest of the essentials, it's also still on autofocus. We have not yet gotten to a fixed focus option, and I do like that there is an integrated privacy shutter. On the side of the camera, this part can actually be turned, and that's how the privacy shutter closes in the front, which I think is great design. By the way, this camera also comes in off-white and rose as of the time of this recording, which is very fun. And this bottom part is detachable, so you can mount it on an external tripod. I think this camera looks pretty good, even right out of the box. But let's take a look at the software to see how we can customize the settings. You can download Logitune for free from the Logitech website. So let's click on our camera, and here is the preview. I'm going to show off the standard features, and then I'll talk about some of these bonuses like right sight. So field of view we covered in the specs, but here you can narrow the field of view behind you. So now you can see it shows just slightly less of my background or even slightly less. This is a bit different than the zoom. I will say I don't think I would recommend the zoom. If you do it a little bit, it won't make too much of a difference. But because we're recording in 1080p, if you zoom in all the way, it's not going to look great. Like if we move up, it's just not going to be like the highest quality and cleanest shot, but I'm just going to zoom all the way back out. And maybe for now, we'll just adjust this background to frame me the way that I typically do for YouTube. Then if you go back into image adjustments, you could go through any of these settings. So for example, maybe I would turn off auto white balance if I wanted more control either way. For now, I am going to keep this on and I'm not going to change any of the default settings, but you're welcome to play around with these and then make the image suit, I would say, your preferences and what you think looks best. You can also always reset it to the default. Heading back here, I want to talk about right sight and show mode because those are the two extra features that the previous Logitech webcam did not include. So if you turn on right sight, I can't currently get this to work in the demo. I have a feeling it's maybe because I'm recording a recording, but if you change the framing distance, so maybe you do closer and save, and then the framing speed, what should happen is that if I move around, it should follow me. But I tested moving all over this room and I could not get it to work. So I have a feeling this is user error. I would not blame this on Logitech. Plenty of people shared successful demos doing this, but I think it's kind of a cool, nice to have feature. Now I am going to demo show mode. So I'm going to turn this on and head back to the full screen camera to really show you what this can do. When you enable show mode, you can actually turn the camera down to show what's on your desk and the image will flip. So this is a little chaotic, but let's grab and turn it down. And you see how it flips the image? So I'm actually over here. So if you put it back, it slowly flips back up. So this is a pretty niche use case, but if you are regularly drawing something on your desk or you want to use your iPad to share something, this could either be a great feature to know about for your primary camera or even as a secondary camera, perhaps mounted on a tripod. So worth knowing. Next is the Elgato Facecam at $150. And they also have a Pro model at $300. Right out of the box, this camera looks crazy. I mean, I always look pale, but this is next level. And it just reiterates the importance of utilizing the software that comes with this webcam, because when I show you Camera Hub from Elgato, you'll see that it makes a huge difference. So first, let's start with the specs. On Elgato's website, you can see the different supported resolutions, including 1080p at 60 frames per second. Now, to briefly talk about the Facecam Pro, which is double the price at $300, this is a 4K webcam. So that's the major difference between the two, and they do look a bit different. Although I'm not covering this camera in this review, you'll still find a link in the description, and it is well reviewed, so it might be worth checking out. Now, heading back to the Facecam, you can also see that there's one field of view and a few more stats here worth considering, including this privacy cap. So this just goes right on the lens. And then there are, I don't think, any mentions of this here, but you can also mount this on an external tripod. On their website, you can also download Camera Hub for either Mac or PC. So I'm gonna click download and bring this up so that we can fix this extremely pale video. This is what the app looks like, and I'm just going to click later. But you'll see as soon as this initializes, without me adjusting any settings, already the camera has improved. Like, did you see my camera briefly stopped and now we have these settings? I didn't do anything. So I can't stress again enough the importance of utilizing the software that comes with your webcam. But now that we're here, let's take a look at the options along the left. First, you can zoom in or out. So if I zoom out a little bit, now you can see some of this in my shot. So maybe this is my preference. You can also adjust any of these settings. Again, I'm not going to go too in depth here, but you can see that you do have quite a few controls, and it's up to you if you want to turn auto exposure on. I'm going to turn perhaps that off for today. You also have control over white balance, or you can keep it on automatic. So it's truly up to you to come in here and adjust these to suit your preferences. Already, this looks way better. And you may have noticed there was no toggle for autofocus. And that's because this camera has what's called fixed focus. In my tests, I found that this looked a lot sharper in things like Zoom meetings, because when I made arm gestures, it didn't tend to blur the way that some of the other cameras did. So that was one thing that I really liked about the Elgato Facecam. Next is the Logitech 4K Pro Webcam at $200. This is the most expensive webcam on our list, although it's not the most expensive on the market, but it's also the only one with 4K resolution. And right out of the box, this image is definitely the best that we've seen out of all the contenders. These specs look similar to the other Logitech cameras, with the notable and significant addition of 4K resolution. You can still record in 1080p, and if you're using a service like Zoom, it's not gonna get up to 4K no matter what you do. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like in both of these resolutions when I pull up the software. Then scrolling down, we have the varied field of view, and now you have a zoom that might actually be relevant, because if you record in 4K and if you zoom in, the image quality is probably still going to be pretty good. So now this is a relevant feature worth noting. There is a removable privacy shutter, and allegedly you can mount this on other tripods. Initially, I didn't think that the base came off, but it does say, scrolling down, that it is detachable with a universal mounting clip. I didn't want to test it out and break things, but I'm going to have to take Logitech at their word. Now let's open up the software and check things out. You can manage the 4K Pro from Logitune. And although it's labeled Brio, this is the camera that we're currently using. And now you can see our options. You can adjust your field of view just as before, and you can also zoom in. I might maybe set it here, maybe I'll keep it zoomed out, and now this frames my shot a little more nicely and similar to how I have it on YouTube. I don't need the built-in mic. You could disable it if you want. And same as before, in the image adjustments, you might go through and decide to manually update some of these if preferred. But then the other thing worth mentioning here in the settings is the fact that right now I'm actually just previewing this in 1080p. If I wanted to go to 4K, now I can change this here. Here's the preview in 1080p. And since this is the resolution we saw on the other cameras, this is probably the best point of comparison. Next, let's compare all of the webcams against an iPhone to see how they stack up. This shot was filmed with my iPhone, and more specifically, I've connected my iPhone to my MacBook Pro through a feature called continuity camera. This means that if both devices are on the same Wi-Fi, I don't need to connect them with a cord. All I need to do is open up my MacBook, open up a video recording tool, and then select the iPhone as the camera. So that's exactly what I've done for this shot. In fact, because it's a webcam, it's easy to put the picture-in-picture in the corner, again, just using my iPhone connected over Wi-Fi. I personally think that this is a great option for course creators and online business owners. So if you're just getting started on YouTube, streaming, in course creation, or anything online, I think it's well worth considering using your smartphone if you already own a device. If you're looking for an upgrade pick, you may also be looking at video cameras that can be plugged into a computer and used as a webcam. And that's what I do at Wit and Wire. So currently I'm recording with the Sony ZV-1. And this is what I use for all of my YouTube videos and my online courses, but I definitely did not start here. My first YouTube videos were recorded on my iPhone, and my first online course videos actually had no camera at all, and then evolved to use the Logitech C920s, so the $60 to $70 camera that I showed at the beginning of this video. I would encourage you to evolve your tech as you grow. You definitely don't need this camera if you're just getting started. That said, I love how it looks, and it's so easy to use. What I do is I plug the camera into my computer using the Elgato Cam link, and now I can just use it in Zoom calls and to record my online courses with ease. It's certainly not a fair comparison to put this up against even a 4K webcam, but that said, I think a lot of creators might be pleasantly surprised to see how these cameras compare. So here are just a few options on screen so that if you're trying to decide which webcam is right for you, you can see some of those differences one last time. I'm curious to hear which webcam you prefer in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to Wit and Wire for more simplified online business tutorials. Before you go, don't forget to download the free video toolkit for course creators at witandwire.com/video toolkit. And that includes links to our favorite webcams, microphones, and lighting. So again, that's witandwire.com/video toolkit. While you're here, here's another video I think you might find useful.